Good afternoon. You're listening live to Heart, a program which aims to help you understand to become your loving self. This is KMET 1490 AM ABC Radio Live. I'm Dr. Mitra Rashidian. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified sexologist, offering a program at this hour about sexual health care, along with Dr. Robert Jaffe, who he's going to introduce himself.
Thank you. Yes, I'm Dr. Robert Jaffe.
Welcome.
Welcome. We're going to do this program today. It's a 2-hour program. The first hour is on human sexuality and relationships. And Dr. Rashidian is an expert in those areas. And the second hour, we're going to be talking about trauma, codependency, and addictions, and also relationships. We're glad to have you with us, and we hope that you will stay with us for the full 2 hours. And we would love to have you call us or email us during the 2 hours. Let us know your thoughts, any questions that you have. That would be wonderful. Our phone number is 951-922-3532.
Well, thank you for that, Dr. Jaffe. And yes, we would like to hear from you. We would like to hear from your stories. We would like to hear from your experiences, because all of those are valuable informations that we don't have. And this is how we can, understand different forms of problem solvings, and then how we can share them with the rest of the world and learn from each other, because this is a collaborative program, and we want you to be here so that we can also understand better what we can offer to you to help you.
Absolutely.
Right. So I was listening to your introduction, and you said that I am an expert in sexuality.
You are.
Right. But realistically, I don't know about that.
I do. I do.
Well, thank you for your confidence.
We're co-authoring a book, a lot of which is about sexuality, and I get to see the breadth and depth of your knowledge and wisdom.
Thank you.
You've been doing this many, many years, and you've studied it, and you've written about it, and you've published about it. I think that qualifies you as an expert.
That qualifies me, yes. Well, thank you. Well, I think that's one side of the equation. The other side of the equation is we have all these theories, we have all these, information. And sometimes, my clients ask me a question that it is so basic, and then, my mind goes into, wow, what do I need to say, and, to make this problem go away for them and all of that. And lately, I'm getting to the point that, when we say at the end of our program, all you need is love. Exactly how do people apply that?
Well, of course, that's all the stuff that we have to help people understand how it's applied.
Right. So they ask me, you say all we need is love. And I say yes. And then I said, well, where is that love? Where is it? How do we find it? How do we experience it? How do we apply it? Right? Where do I go to find this love that, we keep promising them, we're telling them, all you need is love. It is this, it is as though we're sending them into this, imaginary part that it's so fascinating, it's so warm, it's so beautiful, it's so tender, it's so loving, but they don't know what is it that they're looking for. They see themselves in this twilight zone that, all I need is love, and I want that, I crave for it. Yeah, I just, it's almost there, I can touch it, but I can't touch it at the same time. So I thought maybe today we can, talk about that and see, what exactly all you need is love includes, and then how some of that can be at least, paid attention to today and to be shared. right?
Sounds good.
Right.
Absolutely.
So to me, all I need is love. It's not just, when love starts with me, loving me.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and and then so a part of that is how do I love myself? So a part of that is self-care,
Self-care.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about self-care, people immediately think, oh, I don't have time to go to yoga class. Oh, but I'm eating right. I'm going to movies each weekend, or I do stuff like that. Well, this is this is all good. This is all part of self-care. But self-care has a much deeper meaning to it. Don't you think so?
I think self-care is a big term that involves a lot, just like love is a big term that involves a lot.
Right. But
And
self-love includes, self-care.
it includes self-care.
Yeah.
Right.
So here we have two big dynamics that they are merging,
Mm-hmm.
to create love,
Mm-hmm.
that love that we want. Because
Mm-hmm.
when we talk about love, people immediately dive into sex,
Right.
right? Which, guess what? As part of loving yourself, having a healthy sex life is included in that too,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
right?
That's true.
So we have self-care, we have self-love, and we have a healthy sex,
Well, you're
to say the
talking about
least.
all the things that go into self-care, but I think love to me is our natural state.
Right.
I think I think we're born out of into a world that all we really want is to love and be loved, and how that manifests can vary from person to person. It's sort of like the five love languages that we've mentioned before. Um, five love languages are ways of showing love to each other and ways of being in a loving space with each other. But the idea to me of love is that love is our spiritual essence,
Mhm.
and our spirit uh, that that lives within us and is always there and accessible, wants to feel loving, wants to feel loved, and also wants to and the things that go along with that, which are gratitude, appreciation, and mostly kindness to ourselves and others. Those are ways of demonstrating and accessing those loving feelings.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
what gets in the way of that, of course, is a lot of fear. And so one author that I like, he said that fear is actually a request for love, because love is the only thing that can really cure fear.
Exactly. Yes. I mean, that is, love is within us. And how people access that is because when we talk about self-love, and I have had clients asking me, well, what is how am I supposed to take care of myself? How am I supposed to love myself? I mean, I do love myself, I go shopping, I go out with my friends. And then there are some that they say, I really don't have time for this type of things. I'm too busy, right? Well, essentially, both of them are not doing, self-love, are not doing any of what it is, because self-love is a way of life.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that you do today and then take a break tomorrow and then start another week of taking care of yourself or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a way of life. It's how you view yourself as a human being and understand your needs, your wants, and be able to talk about them, be able to become curious about yourself, as a matter of fact.
Mm-hmm.
It's about learning from your, past mistakes and not repeating them again. It's about being able to look at your needs and wants and then become creative in about how you can make them happen, how you can,
Right.
achieve them,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's in short, that's the summary that, we're talking about. And then people usually protest when it comes to the talk about self-love or self-talk or self-care and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
It is as they already have enough chore and they don't want to have to add another one to it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they say, but I'm fine, I'm healthy, I'm not sick and all of that. My God, that's the least. That's the least we want for ourselves. We don't want to be sick. And just because we are not sick, that it doesn't mean that we are doing self-love.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Self-love is a feeling. It's a viewpoint. Uh, it's it's um, it's a behavior, and it's also something that we do so that we enjoy the living process. And the more we feel loving toward ourselves, the happier we are, and that happiness then radiates out into into the universe, into other people.
Right.
People like being around people who are positive and happy. Mm-hmm.
And this may only apply to women. I'm not sure, but some women believe that love is something that they give away to their loved ones,
Mm-hmm.
right? To their children, to their husbands, to their partners, to their friends, to their parents, to their co-workers, and they say, oh, I love everybody and that's good enough for me.
What do you mean by
Right?
good enough?
That means that if people are happy around me, then I'm happy, then I'm loved,
Mm-hmm.
then I feel loved,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But that may be also an aspect of it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
We may get some of the love we give away, we may get some of it back. But then again, look at the amount of effort that one can put out there in the name of love to give away from themselves, from herself, so that she can be loved back at the fracture amount of what she has given out.
Right, right, right. Yeah, so love is an energy,
Right.
right? And energy is not something that's tangible. You can't hold energy in your hand, but energy is what we are composed of. Einstein showed that matter and energy are actually interchangeable, and as a result, now we have atomic energy, right? So love is an energy, and love can be given out, and it can also be received.
Exactly.
And what happens when that is out of whack, when you're giving more than you're receiving, or when you're receiving more than you're giving? What happens then?
But there is no balance there.
Right.
There is no balance. So let's talk about this more after our commercial break. And please call us 951-922-3532. Welcome back from our commercial break. Dr. Mitra and Dr. Robert here at Heart-to-Heart program at KMET 1490 AM, ABC News Radio Live. For those of you who are just joining us, our discussion today is about self-love. And when we say all you need is love, what are we referring to? And self-care and how all that impacts, a healthy sex life. And our phone number here is 951-922-3532. We would like to invite you to please join us and ask questions, share about yourself, and we would like to hear from you, know about your stories. 951-922-3532. And also please introduce this program to those that you may believe they can benefit from. We thank you for sharing your hour with us. So before commercial, we were talking about, we gave just an introduction about love and, what exactly all you need is love means. And So a part of that is includes self-care, self-talk, and so self-talk, does a lot, to shape our mood. We have our stress level. We have that can become overwhelmed. It can go out of control. Uh, Everybody that I talk to, they say, "Oh, I'm so stressed out." Right.
Hmm.
And so, what are you stressing about? Oh, I don't know. Everything in my life is stressful. So when we see something like that, and we can identify, you know, a solid source for it, it's because we are so overwhelmed, not because it doesn't exist. It's because that being overwhelmed, as it is an indication of how many tasks, how many responsibilities we are, handling per day, and then how our emotions are going up and down, and it's like a roller coaster ride, and then it kind of adds to our anxiety and becomes too much, and it it takes us to a place of burnout,
Hmm.
right? And
Hmm.
that's why what we say that, I have too much stress, I can't take it anymore, I just want to, escape, I want to go somewhere when there are no people, which we learned during COVID that that's actually not such a good idea. We want to, because we are social creatures and we need to be with each other, we need to interact,
Hmm.
right?
Correct.
So that means that when we get to this point, that means that we are overlooking, a few things about ourselves.
Hmm.
We are overlooking of the capacity of how much energy we are giving out, and we are not leaving anything for ourselves. We're looking at, the amount of responsibility we are taking over, and then we are not able to complete them. We are forgetting to ask for help when we have too many responsibilities to take care of,
Hmm.
right? And all in the name of, because, I can't do it, I must do it, this is my responsibility. So when we put too much pressure on ourselves, too much stress, and the resulting anxiety, which becomes chronic over time, we're not taking care of our bodies. It impacts our physics,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So self-love does include taking care of your physics, and that's not just by, you know, eating, going out to eat with your friends, or drinking to have a good time. And I hear that from some of my clients. They say, "Oh, we drink socially to have a good time." And I say, "Well, how much do you drink socially?" What exactly that means?
Hmm.
How many glasses of wine are we talking about? How
Hmm.
many shots of tequila are we talking about?
Hmm.
You know, and usually they say, well, like maybe 2 or 3 or 4 glasses of wine, or maybe 5, 6 shots of tequila, because we want to have a good time.
Hmm.
So that, to me, that means that they're not looking at the problems. They're just denying and numbing the problems, you know. And that's not, self-love. That's not self-care, because denying the issues that we are struggling with are not giving us any solution for the actual problem that they are existing. And uh, drinking, even social drinking, uh, taking a weekend vacation, it's not going to help us to resolve the issues. So the only way we can do that is actually face our fear of facing, the issues, right?
Right.
So if we face the issues and look at them, really, sometimes it's not as big as we make them they are. And once we get to that point, we see that, we are actually able to take care of what's going on. And if not, we can permit ourselves to ask for help. Asking for help, and from the right people, even if you have to hire somebody, even if you have to have a consultation with somebody, can offer us lots of relief, lots of, peacefulness. And then, we can rely on what we can do, and then, leave the rest of it to those people who are skillful in the area that we need to take care of it,
Uh-huh. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and I think it's important to recognize that the thing that we have control over really is our attitude.
Right.
And when we and so if we have control over our attitude, what attitude do we wish to adopt in order to feel more loved and loving in our life?
Mhm.
And I think that's the big question: is what attitude do we wish to adopt? And there's been so much written about love. It's probably the most written about, talked about, made movies about, books about topic in the world. Over all the centuries, it's probably the single most uh, uh, it's a ubiquitous topic of conversation. People talk about love. They have songs about love. They write about love. They think about love. It's very important. And that's because it's the essence of who we are as human beings, and it's very, very important. And there's been so many definitions of love. I think one definition that I like is a very simple definition: is that love is looking for the good. You know, when you look for the good in yourself, and you look for the good in others, and you look for the good in situations, you're moving towards that good feeling of loving.
Mhm.
So, um, and when you're talking about people being stressed, well, stress to me means that you're out of the loving flow.
Right.
You're no longer in a loving flow. You're now in a fearful flow.
Right.
Yeah. And to me, fear is when you take love away. That's what you're left with. You're left with a feeling of emptiness, which to me, that's fear.
Right. I mean, I exactly what I see some people do is that, when they have a stressful situation in hand, they actually try to walk away from it
Mm-hmm.
because of the fear of facing it and failing to handle the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So there are many ways that people walk away from a problem, which the biggest one is denial.
Oh yeah, that's the biggest.
That's the biggest one,
Mm-hmm.
right? They deny it, they ignore it, they procrastinate, they just completely forget about it. They block their mind from that situation. I mean, and then, but the problem still is there. So the resulting uh, experience that a person has is, negative emotions that they can become, they can manifest themselves in a behavioral choices, in behavioral actions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fighting with your, with other family members,
Mm-hmm.
we do some sort of enactments, and we like, we don't attend to work, or we delay, productivity, we forget about, eating, or we have problems sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
So we see that the denial, even though in a moment may become helpful, but essentially, the stress does its works.
Mm-hmm.
It manifests itself in physical problem, physical discomfort. It shows itself, in our mood, in our attitude. We become tired, we become hostile, we become angry for no reasons, or
Mm-hmm.
we think it is for no reasons.
We think it's for no
Yeah.
reason.
And then we get up and say, you know what, honey, I'm not in a mood today. Don't talk to me because I don't know what's going on, but I'm not in the mood,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what's going on today. It's actually, I'm in denial of what's going on with me. I don't want to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to take responsibility,
Right.
right? So in that moment, with that attitude and with that mindset, all we doing, we are completely staying away from, self-love.
Correct.
We are staying away from self-care,
Mm-hmm.
right? And even if somebody wants to offer us, kindness, love, something I can do for you, I'm happy to talk, to listen to you, or anything, uh, we don't even hear that.
Mm-hmm.
That's how much we can become preoccupied by negativity, and the level of anxiety, as it goes higher and higher and higher, the level of frustration and our action actually can become out of control.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So the more we stay in a denial stage, right, the more we are staying out of, self-love.
Hmm.
Is that is that accurate in your opinion?
Well, denial is pretending,
Right.
right? And love is authentic, and anything that's inauthentic takes you out of the authentic,
Mm-hmm.
right? So denial is pretending, and I have a client who says, I love denial. And he says that because he says, if I can just pretend long enough, then then I don't have to feel anything about it. I don't have
Right.
to feel upset about it. And so he doesn't understand that accepting the reality and choosing to work on and change those things that you can is empowering and takes you out of denial and more towards self-acceptance and more towards love.
Exactly. Yes. I mean, I have a definition here that says self-care means paying attention to your emotions and giving care and attention to them, right? So if we don't pay attention to our emotions, if we don't understand them, if we don't examine them, if we
Hmm.
don't process them, or if we don't talk about them, they can actually work against us.
Hmm. Right, right. Yeah, in psychology, you're aware that we say if you don't deal with your feelings will deal with
We'll
you.
deal with you, exactly.
That's what you're talking about when you're describing people saying I'm so stressed, but they can't really identify what it is that's stressing them, so they can't problem solve to figure out ways that the things that are stressing them don't stress them.
Exactly. Yes. I mean, uh, but people are in a habit of, distracting themselves.
Hmm.
People are in a habit of, denying and try to ignore what's going on. It is as though by ignoring that, the problem eventually will go away,
Right.
right? Well, the reality is that the problem not only is not going to go away, eventually it's not going to go away. It's just going to be there, and it seems that it gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Usually.
Usually,
Usually it
right?
does. Yeah.
And so we're learning that, as part of self-care, as part of self-love, and as part of love, all you need is love, is to actually pay attention to things as they happen,
Hmm.
and then work through them. Because no matter how many times we avoid what's happening, at the end of the day, we're going to have to face it, or the problem is going to, face us.
Exactly. Yeah. So denial is it is the most powerful and most often used uh, that in order to protect people from having to feel that they're not up to snuff in dealing with the problem.
Right.
So if the problem doesn't exist, they don't have to look at the fact that they feel inadequate to deal with it.
Right.
And so then you put it on the shelf, and eventually you put another problem on the shelf, and eventually the shelf collapses.
Exactly. Yes. And then, here are some examples of when there is a task in hand or a situation in hand that people, start to not looking at them. So, uh, I'll deal with it after watching football,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I'm watching a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I have to make some phone calls,
Mm-hmm.
right? Right now, I have to hammer this. Right now, I have to lawn the backyard. Or right now, I have to go and do some grocery shopping,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So, all of that, that means there is time to take care of the problem. There is option to take care of the problem, but we choose to not look at that. Instead, come up with a few alibis here that, they become the priority at the moment, but ultimately we're not even enjoying the movie, we're not even enjoying the football, we're not even enjoying the phone conversation or the grocery shopping
because we're distracted.
we're just distracting.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And that even hurts us more.
Mm-hmm.
That even takes us from a place of love even further out, you know. But we think that by distracting, by having, six beers or smoking or, eating or, cleaning, we are actually doing something better for ourselves.
Well, we going back to self-care, we
Yeah.
think of that it's self-care.
Yeah, that is self-care.
Right. I deserve to have this beer because I've worked hard
I
all day.
work hard all day. Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's talk more about this after our commercial break.
Sounds good.
Okay. Welcome back from our commercial break. Dr. Mitra and Dr. Robert here at Heart-to-Heart program at KMET 1490 AM, ABC News Radio Live. We are discussing, what exactly self-love, self-care, means and how do we go about doing that. We would like to hear from you. Please call us 951-922-3532. You can also visit us at our Facebook, Heart to Heart, Heart to Heart Counseling. And then, so we thank you for, spending your hour with us. So, Dr. Jaffe, people, when they think about self-care or self-love, they immediately may go into a place of, okay, well, I need to add something new. I need something fresh. I need something different, right? So that could be as simple as buying a new outfit. Some people buy a new car. Some people bring in a dog or a cat or other pets, right? Some people start to redecorate. Some people even go do more expensive, stuff and all of that. And then at the end of the project or at the end of shopping day or at the end of everything that they try to do, the problem still is there, right? They're not feeling well, they're not feeling happy, right? Because the reality is we don't need to add more stuff on top of the stuff that we already have, right?
Right.
We don't need a new outfit to make me feel love. We don't need, new furniture or a new car or going to a new restaurant or, painting the walls or buying, that special vase or the jewelry or, or expensive trips or expensive yoga class or doing things, that they are nothing but adding to what already exists. In other words, when we have a stressful situations, we already have a shaky foundation. We can't build anything on top of that, no matter how beautiful the new item or the new task is.
Right.
Right.
Right. So, yeah, in codependency, we talk about substituting people, places, and things for love.
Right.
That other people certainly can give us love, but may not give us love. And if the people that are close to us don't give us the love that we want, and we don't know how to generate it within ourselves, then what?
Exactly.
Then we look for the things outside of us to try to fill that gap, right?
Right. Right. So, if we want to define exactly how to engage in self-love, is basically we want to signal, ourselves that we matter in our own lives.
Right. Right.
So, and that's the key point, to I matter in my own life, right? And we do not need to, to spend lots of time, money, or on exotic, things in order to improve, our self-care,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
Just by, we can start by self-talk
Mm-hmm.
that I matter.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see what really bothers me. Let me just be open and honest with myself. Let me just be curious about myself,
Mm-hmm.
right? Let me put my denial and my procrastination aside,
Mm-hmm.
right? Let me see how my subconscious is running me, what my dreams are telling me. These are all facts. These are all signals that we ignore and we don't realize them and we don't look at them because sometimes they are too hard to look at,
Well,
right?
that's our fear. Our fear is that they're too
Yeah,
hard. And a lot of people believe that it's better to stay out of deep conversations. Uh, they believe that by staying out of deep conversations, they don't have to ever experience pain.
right.
Yeah, the avoidance of pain. People try to avoid pain and try to move toward pleasure. That's human. That's what we all like. But the problem is when we avoid pain and that pain keeps persisting, the pain is there for a reason. And the more that we avoid it, the more we ignore the reason that it's there. And if it's physical pain, it can certainly be something serious with our bodies. And if it's emotional and spiritual pain, then there's something wrong with our feelings and our spirituality.
Exactly. And like you said, people, some people may find spirituality such a deep subject
Mm-hmm.
that they just, don't want to understand it, don't want to pursue it, don't want to take a look at it, right? It's just that, ultimately, um, there are people that they become so comfortable with discomfort.
Right.
They live in a box, it's in a closed box,
Mm-hmm.
right? That for them to step outside is too hard. Their body has shaped into that box, and it has become so numb
Mm-hmm.
that they don't really feel the pain anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But they know that they are not happy. They know they're not comfortable. They know they don't feel love.
Right.
And then they bring that into their relationships. They bring that into their bedrooms. Their lovemaking fails, their expression of love fails,
Mm-hmm.
their relationship eventually fails, and all because they find it too painful to take a look at themselves and go through the self-love. And the reality is, this is a skill that many of us don't know how to do that
Mm-hmm.
because from early on we are trained to look at external factors as a source of happiness, right? The other day you and I, we were talking about this concept of, when we meet new people, you say, oh hi, I'm Mitra, and you say I'm Robert, and then the next one is, well, what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we do identify ourselves by what we do, what our profession is, what our luxury is, and all of that. Those are not self-love talk.
Right. And you and I were talking about how that's not the same in all countries.
Right.
That in many countries in Europe, when people meet, they don't automatically ask, "What do you do?"
Right.
They say, "Hi."
How do you do?
Well, yeah, not yeah. What do you do? But how do you do?
How do you do?
Yeah, how do you do? And then the next thing is just talking about what's happening in the moment.
In the moment, yes.
You know,
Yeah.
oh, I was just looking at this beautiful painting, or
Right.
or oh, we're traveling around and
Right.
and and here's where we've been.
Right.
You know.
Remember, you and I went to Australia a long time ago,
Mm-hmm.
and it was lunchtime, and we were
Mm-hmm.
sitting in the park, and suddenly people, they were just jogging in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
And you were fascinated by it. I said, where did they find the time to jog at this time of the day? Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yes. Yes.
But that's exactly what we're talking about. That was I just remember that.
Mm-hmm.
That is pure self-love.
Yes.
I'm using my time, whatever that I have, and I want to do jogging.
Mm-hmm.
You know, And I found that to be exactly true when I was in Europe myself, and I was in Australia. The focus is not on what do you do. The focus is on how do you do. The focus is on what's happening right now, and the focus is on self-care, self-love,
And who are you?
and who are you
Yeah, who
exactly.
are you rather than how do you occupy your
Right.
time and make money?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, and I know that what we just introduced does happen here,
Mm-hmm.
but I wish that we could see more of it.
Mm-hmm.
you know and when I talk to my clients about self-care, self-love, uh, they say that they love to know about it, but they just don't know how to go by doing it. They have so much to do,
Mm-hmm.
right? They have so much to do. Their time is so occupied, and then they come here. They complain about their relationship with their spouses. Right? We don't have time for each other. We love each other, but we don't have time for each other. They both are waiting, for the other one to pick up the tab because they're so exhausted,
Mm-hmm.
or because they're so tired. And in particular, those that they have children, they are even more exhausted, right? So it's hard for them to find a moment for themselves.
Right.
The other day, I had to actually suggest to a client how to redecorate actually, her bedroom in order to find a peaceful, quiet place for her to meditate.
Mm-hmm.
And to get away from all that aggravation around her.
Mm-hmm.
And she had no idea that she can do that.
Mm-hmm.
She said, well, I'm going to do it in bed. And then she failed. And then I said, why do you think you failed in bed? And then we processed that because the bed symbolizes a center for talking about problems for her.
Mm-hmm.
That's where her and her husband end up talking about problems and complaining about each other.
Mm-hmm.
So how can that be a place of relaxation for her?
Or it could also symbolize sleep.
Sleep.
Right. So you're not going to meditate if you're sleeping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's that association. So absolutely, when and so, but the good news was she was open to discussing it and open to learning something new about how to create that space for herself.
Right. And the way she created that space for herself is actually very simple. So she bought two yoga mats,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because she likes a cushiony kind of sitting area. So she put the two of them on top of each other in another corner of her bedroom, decorated, surrounding of it with some candlelights, right? Some relaxation music. And I taught her how to do breathing and stretching for herself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been like about maybe 5 nights that she's been doing that. And she just told me yesterday, wow, I fell asleep. And I was saying, what happened that you managed to do that? And she said she almost fell asleep on the yoga mats, actually. And I said, that's a nice place to fall asleep, And she was able to I mean, this is at the very beginning stage, but she's able to actually look at herself, see where the problems are, how they are, and actually, bring them to my attention, to her attention, to her husband's attention, and kind of get some sense of relief. And imagine if one can do this in like 5 days, right? This is a drastic change.
Right.
Imagine if we all focus on how not to hold the stress factors inside of us, give ourselves a break, put a yoga mat, somewhere that I call it my space, and just go there for relaxation, lay down, grab a book, smell the good candles, smell some fresh flowers, put some lavender there, and then, put some music there. I just posted a very nice, sleeping music on LinkedIn. And when I was listening to that, I said, oh, wow, I want to listen to this every night. So I posted that on LinkedIn. And this is how we pay attention to ourselves. Very simple. We don't need an expensive $300 massage.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need all those expensive, lotions that they put on us and then wash it away. So it goes, right?
Yeah.
So self-love is simple. It doesn't need any equipment. It needs our attention only. It needs our, understanding of ourselves,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So our time is about. You want to say something?
No, I just wanted to say that I'm glad we had this discussion because self-love is something that everybody needs
Yeah.
and needs to make a priority.
Right. Exactly. That
Yeah.
is our priority. So with that, I'd like to invite you to please join us again next Thursday at 3 p.m. for another episode of, sexual healthcare. And then right now, I would like to invite you to join us at the hour for episode of codependency, trauma, addictions, and relationships with Dr. Robert Jaffe. And don't forget, all you need is
All you
love.
need is love. See you next week.